in New York, and I remember they were running it in one theater downstairs and another theater upstairs. And there's a scene in the picture where Belinda Blasky is at a chest of drawers, and this werewolf hand comes in with a piece of paper. And I had never thought that it was going to be such a big deal, but there was like this scream. And I thought it was a fluke, and I went back, so I went upstairs where the picture was staggered a little bit, and they screamed exactly the same way in exactly the same place.
Well, I do a lot of horror films, but I don't watch a lot of them. I get scared.
Get out of here.
I was the only one that screamed at the screening when the dog jumps in the window at me, and I was in the shot.
Sometimes you do stuff on instinct. I mean, you really direct movies on instinct, and your instinct is that this is the correct way to do it, and sometimes you can't even explain why, but it just seems the right way. And it's kind of validating when you actually go to the movie and you see that whatever it is that you had intended, or even not intended, is exactly what it should be.
I think it's just a bloody good horror film.
It just releases your imagination, you know? I mean, there's so much fun. You're not personally involved, really. You're sort of into a fantasy land, so you can just fly with it.
People stop me all over the world about The Howling. It has a huge following.
It works completely as a horror movie in that it has many great scares in it, and it's moody. And you know, it gets you to pop out of your chair a number of times.
Joe didn't manipulate you. He really scared you.
Bill, wake up. There's something out there. Outside, something was howling.
The other films that I know of around that time that did werewolves that had more money don't seem to have quite the magic to them.
I was and am a firm believer that you can scare people a lot more easily when they're relaxed. And the audience's first inclination when they go into a horror picture is that they're going to have fun. And so there's a lot of laughing, and there's a lot of making fun, and there's a lot of talking at the screen. Don't go there, don't go in there, don't open that door. Because people basically go to get scared for the same reasons they go on a roller coaster. I mean, it's a safe kind of high without having to actually be in danger.
You know, sometimes really talented people just do their own thing. And I think the fans totally get that.
My deal on this picture was they paid me, I think, $1,000 to direct it. And there was a pretty bad period after The Howling that I didn't work at all because the company changed hands. And Norman Lear bought it and decided he didn't want to make this kind of picture anymore. Wanted to make, you know, something a little classier. And so the project that I'd been working on, the Philadelphia experiment, which I've been working on for not much money for almost a year, was canceled. And I was down to my last $500 after having made 2.5 pictures, just to show you people out there that it's not as easy as you think.
Having made The Howling and having had people go pay money to see it just opened up all sorts of doors for everybody.
Ultimately, I think it probably led to me directing Gremlins because I was sent that script in the mail.
Unbeknownst to us, Steven Spielberg saw the movie and was a big fan of it, which we didn't find out until we got a script in the mail, which was Gremlins.
Just like came in the mail, I thought it would come to the wrong person. I said, Steven Spielberg sending me mail? What for?
In fact, Steven hired Dee Wallace to star in E.T., so he obviously liked the movie a lot.
I remember the day when my Star Trek producer, Brannon Braga, discovered that I was Eddie Quist. He had no idea. You know, I'd been working with him 2 years on Star Trek Voyager, and he didn't know that and someone told him that I was Eddie in The Howling. And I think that he finally went, wow, there's more to this guy than I knew. Let me write an episode. Shortly after that, we did a Jekyll and Hyde episode on Voyager.
The ad campaign was a claw ripping through a screen or something, and then behind it is a woman screaming. And it was a pretty provocative image. And I think the ad line was, "Imagine your worst fear or reality," which is pretty vague, but still interesting. And nowhere says Wolfman or werewolves or anything.
We thought it was great because it was suggestive without being blatant, and you know, we didn't want to give away what the werewolves looked like. You know, it was a very subtle, kind of tasteful, classy campaign, we thought.
It was arresting enough image to get people talking, and it was used all over America. But in Europe, oddly, they took the same idea, but they put a big wolf snout sticking out instead. And I think that's what's on the cover of your DVD, come to think of it. And I think the other one's better. I think the other cover is better.
Tell him.
Don't use that one. Use the one with a girl. The Howling did well enough to spawn a sequel, although if for whatever reason it wasn't made by Embassy. I don't think I probably would have been in the running to do that because Gary Brandner, who wrote the book, was not a big fan of mine. And he was controlling the rights at the time. And so they went to Europe and made Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf, which was fine with me. I mean, okay, great, make a sequel.
Years after we made the movie, we rented a screening room and ran Howling 2, I think. And it was really bad.
Christopher Lee, who I worked with on subsequent films, the first thing he did when he met me was apologize for being in Howling 2. For some reason, it's just one of those things where it just doesn't quite come together. And it doesn't make a shred of sense from the very first frame, because the whole premise of the sequel is that no one saw her turn into a werewolf, which she did on television at the end of the previous movie and was seen by everybody. But it's a big secret in the second movie. So, oh, no, don't tell anybody about that.
And that was the last one that I saw. I didn't see any of I think there's been 7 of them or something, but that was the only one we saw. It was really bad. And, most of them were made, in Czechoslovakia or whatever.
Then there was Howling 3, which was the marsupials, which was the weir kangaroos, or whatever they were. And then there was Howling 4, which I think took place in a castle. And then I lose track. Then there's Howling 5, 6, 7.
The Howling was made for very little money, as you know, and is a good-looking movie that stands up 20 years later on a very small budget. Now you couldn't even make, you couldn't even do the makeup effects for 5 times the budget of the whole film.
If you were going to make this picture today, for the first time, you would be doing CGI effects up the wazoo, and you would be having as many werewolves as you could possibly fit on the screen at any one time, and they would be doing awful things to everybody, constantly.
I think every generation needs its werewolf movie. So I think maybe we're ready for another one.
Well, The Howling has always been one of my favorite movies that I've made because it was the first good movie that I made, and I just sort of gravitated toward that kind of movie.
The films that Joe and I have worked on that probably are going to be the ones that referred to in the future are The Howling and the original Gremlins. And both of them, kids scream and yell through the whole film.
I think it's a lot less dated than some other movies from that era, certainly. And certainly the sensibility and the sense of humor is very hip and contemporary.
I talked to a lot of people who are now in their, mid-30s who saw The Howling at 14, 15, 16 years old, and I think that's the peak moment, especially for a young male, to see that movie and really like it.
It's, you make a lot of movies if you're lucky, and they're all your kids, that's what they say, and you even love the ugly ones, which you do. But this one is one of the rare cases where everything sort of fit together and came out right. How long is this documentary?
I don't remember the question, actually.
Want to hear it?
You better ask me questions like, how long did the makeup take and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so much fun.
That's it.